And I wanted to start with asking about what you think, or maybe what you've heard about the most common cause for divorce in marriages.
I think it's money.
Yeah. And I think that that's widely communicated, very, very commonly communicated. I'm not sure if Daniel wants to share.
Communication as well.
And what?
Communication.
Okay, yes.
Communication.
Yep. As a matter of fact, it's what I believe, and what we always teach is that it is communication about finances. So when so the finances are hard, but when you're not able to communicate about them, you're not able to talk about them without conflict, or not able to resolve conflict around finances, that's when it gets really difficult. And I would even say a lack of shared values around finances. And Ron talked about that a little bit. Really learning to communicate about your finances needs to start now if you're engaged. I tell couples all the time, it's almost like it's kind of a gray area between committed dating and engaged. And sometimes we say, well, no, you shouldn't share finances until you're engaged. But remember, I said over this time a few times, couples are talking about getting married. They're just waiting for a ring, or they feel they're traditional and they want the question, pop the question on one knee with a ring. And if that hasn't happened yet, then they don't talk about things. But I would say, from my perspective, if you think you're at least 6 months out, if you're 6 months out from getting married, 6 months to a year, let's say, and you were really planning on, you're going to marry one another, it's not too soon to talk about finances. And I would even say that if you're not you haven't been talking about that, and you have questions about values, that can be talked about. So our values around how finances are done, what money is, how you manage it or use it, that kind of thing can be talked about. Maybe the other things like sharing your credit score and sharing your debt, sharing your income, those things you might want to wait until you're engaged. But again, what is your definition of engaged? And that can be cultural. It can be just your opinion. But whatever it is, this is something that we really value. So with having said that, how many of you have talked about finances in marriage? What you think you're going to do? Okay. I'm not going to ask you to say what you're going to do, but I really want to. This class is mostly about whether you will combine your finances or whether you will keep them separate. And what I've learned in the last 4 or 5 years is that there are couples that are keeping their finances separate, but they've found ways to do it that share their values. And so this class, Ron mentioned in his video that we believe the biblical value is to become one. And so that's first. That's going to be the top priority, that you share in most ways your money. But then there are different circumstances that come in. It might be student loan debt. It might be having a child outside of marriage. So I'm sorry, in a previous relationship, you had a child. And so then there are extra responsibilities. There are just so many things that can come into the picture when you decide. But I would like to suggest that you ask yourself, if you don't want to share your finances, really think about why you don't want to. And again, there's no right or wrong, but I think motivation in our hearts is really important to think about. So Ron mentioned lots of reasons that might be, and I would even suggest that in my experience talking with couples, it often has to do with having been in a relationship where finances were not honored, where there was some hurt, maybe even some betrayal. And so, if you have a fear in your heart about what someone else might do, if you share responsibilities or share money or give it over to someone else, that's what I would like you to think about as we go through the class tonight.
Hey, Kelly.
Yes.
Hey, I'm just trying to make sure I understand. When you're saying you don't want to share your finances, how you're kind of defining that? Because to me, I could totally see how a couple can have joint accounts, but there's no one's like necessarily hiding or whatever other I'm just trying to make sure I understand what you mean by kind of sharing finances.
Sure. So the traditional shared finances would be where your income, all of your income goes into one account for both of you. And one person or both people do the finances, pay the bills, balance, take care of investments, whatever it may be. And so that would be where you both, it's not my money and my money, it's our money. So when my husband and I got married, it was, it didn't matter who had what debt or what either person made. It was our money. And so does that help, Cecil?
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, so if you don't put all of your money together, then what can happen is we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but that would not be sharing. If you didn't have a joint account, and I think Ron mentioned several different versions of what it could look like. But when we say sharing your finances, we mean putting it all together and doing everything from one account. So there's complete transparency in general. Okay. Any other questions as I'm going? Am I going too fast? No? Okay. So thinking about communication and about finances, one of the things that I want to do is look back at our third week when we did self-protective vows and our second week when we talked about family of origin. So you guys are going to get tired of this. You might get tired of this, but it's so important. So I want to give you just about 5 minutes now to talk with each other about what finances were like in your family of origin. And so that may be a marriage, that may be a single parent home, that may be grandparent, whatever it was when you were growing up, what were the people in charge like when it came to money, and what was your experience of money growing up? And you might have already talked about it, but maybe talk about how that affected you, like what you felt. So 5 minutes, and then I'll call us back.
Hey, Kelly, what are we supposed to be doing?
Oh, I'm typing right now. So I'll say it again. Talk about what finances were like in your family of origin and how you felt about it. How, when you think about finances or money from growing up, what was it like for you in your family of origin?
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, everybody. Come on back. To see your faces again. Hey, did anybody find out anything that they think would be helpful for the rest of us? Or anybody just want to share what their family of origin was like or how they differ? I'd love to have somebody share.
share.
Thanks.
I largely saw my mom take care of like finances and that kind of thing. But I would say that the story that I at least told myself about their finances was that my mom's money was her money and that my dad's money was their money. And so my dad is like a pretty simple guy. He doesn't need a whole lot, but like my mom loves to shop and do all these different things. The bills were always paid. And they have like a financial advisor. So, but like it wasn't something that was talked about, anything like that. So, and in his family, do you want to share? Oh,
You on the road.
His dad was the primary breadwinner, and his mom, she was a stay-at-home mom, and then she would work some jobs, but like she never fully knew how much money they collectively had or anything like that. And sometimes like bigger purchases, and when we say big, we're talking like cars and things like that, weren't always discussed because his dad was the primary breadwinner. So he would just like, if he wanted to go buy a car, he went and bought a car.
Kind of operated how he wanted to operate because he felt like, I'm making this money and I'm going to spend it.
Yeah. So interesting.
Right.
Yeah. So how does that sound to you, Erin?
So neither one of us wants exactly that. So like, I know that I have a tendency to want to spend. I love the dopamine hit from shopping. And I'm like, no, maybe we shouldn't carry that into marriage. And so I think we both decided that a hybrid approach would probably be best for us, but also because Vaughn has a son and like we were just talking about that. So kind of those examples we've given earlier about like, there are just so many different situations, if you will. So it's like, no matter what, he's gonna need a separate, account or whatever, but we both agree that like purchases like cars and houses, those should be discussed.
Yeah.
We're out and purchasing those.
Okay, very good. I'm going to actually give a scenario about that in a few minutes, something like that. So thanks, guys. Anybody else have something unique or interesting? How about this? A show of hands. Was anyone thinking this was like you needed to do this or you didn't need to do this? Because I asked if you talked about finances. Have you talked about family of origin?
So I know for Aaron and I, like early on when we decided to be in a committed relationship, like we talked through finances, and like when we decided to live together, like we laid it all pretty much out on the table. And then like family of origin, we both came up in single parent homes where we were primarily taking care of our mothers, and then fathers supplemented or helped out where needed. But I think it's fair to say both our parents were somewhat irresponsible.
Yeah.
And then we kind of had to figure it out on our own, how to manage finances successfully. But, that's about right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other thing though is like, because the example that we saw, we both individually opposite direction in that I think we're extremely responsible with finances and we really don't like debt because we've seen that.
Yeah. So there was, that this is an instance where it's mostly a positive vow that you don't want that to be the case. But there also is some self-protection in there. And so what we learned in self-protective vows was to be able to take those things to the Lord. And, you guys are on the same page, so it works out fine. But it's really good to notice that what we experienced when we were in our homes growing up may affect how we do things. Or, the other thing I've always said is that, like, I don't say I never want to be like my mother or father, because chances are, you will be a lot like them. You will probably have some things come up. The Jesus is in my heart, but grandpa's in my bones. So it definitely can, it can come up like that. So anybody else? Thank you, Erin and Rob. That was great. All right.
I'll go. When I was growing up, I know that when I was really young, we didn't have, like, our parents didn't have a lot of money. And then we had like a little bit more later, but I also grew up in a very like wealthy community, even though we didn't have a lot of, like, we had enough money to like live there kind of and not really do anything else. But I never knew growing up, like, when we would be stretched really thin, and like I was a dancer growing up, my parents always made like that happen. But my parents like didn't really, it also like just really stressed me out. Like I was just really anxious about it as a child and like a teenager. So I think that my parents were just pretty like, they didn't talk about it a lot. So like now that we're talking about it, he like knew that about me, but also like I have a pretty good amount of student debt. So it feels like overwhelming to me and like the anxiety, whereas like his family, they're very like financially literate and like he's a finance major. So like it's like just very different like levels of comfort with it. And I don't really know a lot about it. And it like stressed me out to think about, but yeah.
Anything to add, Alex?
No, she had everything that we were talking about.
Well, Helen, thank you. That's a really great perspective. It's not at, I don't think it's at all uncommon. But you know, that just gives you a picture of what it might be like. This is something that I talk to couples about too, where someone like Helen, who had Helen's experience, doesn't want, like they get so anxious about it, they don't want, they just say, take care of it. You take care of it. And kind of, they might remove themselves from the conversation because of that. And so I'm not saying that's what you're doing, Helen, but that is something that comes up a lot where one person will just completely give up any voice in the finances. And what some people, so let's say the woman does that and the man says, that's fine, I can do it. Or the other thing could happen is he could say, that's too much responsibility. I want us both to do it. So we would say that you need to know what's going on. And if you're anxious about it, if there's a lot of anxiety about either, not being enough money or how it's done, or just the fear of an argument, that you talk to somebody about it, that you're able to do some of the exercises we did last week with conflict resolution, where you try and come together and find a way to talk about it that's non-threatening. I always say that there was a period of time in my marriage, maybe 10 years ago, where my husband and I had to go to Panera to talk about finances. We didn't get in arguments at Panera. And it was safe because there was just a lot of anxiousness around that. And I don't know maybe it was my idea, maybe it was his, I don't know, but it really worked. It worked really well for us. So, it was almost like saying, well, let's go get something to eat and we'll do this and knock it out. And so if you make a time each month, or maybe you need to do it every other week, or whatever it is for you, where you talk about, look at those, spreadsheets, if you have any, if you know how to do that. And, like maybe now is a good time to talk about the word budget. I love to think about that together. So when you say the word budget, like if you say, I have a budget, first of all, we'll do this. I'll give you a little exercise we'll do. Would you say yes or no would you agree or disagree to the phrase, the statement, I have a budget? Okay, so when you keep that in your mind, I stay within my budget. So think about your answer for that. And then, so the thing is what does budget mean? And this is where people just don't think the same thing and they don't know it. So tell me, you guys, just throw out what you think a budget means. Not a paragraph, more maybe a sentence or two. What a budget is. Oh, we got a question. There's a question in the chat, but I'm going to have to get back to that. Okay, so anybody want to tell me what their definition of a budget is?
Hello.
Hello. Hi,
Hi.
Maria.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I think of like a budget as, you bring in a certain amount of money, and that could be from, depending on the person, a lot of different things. I mean, most people are probably employed, so they have employment income, but then there are also other people who get, child support, or maybe they have some type of trust, or maybe
Sure.
parent or someone has passed on. And so whatever, you start with that total sum, which is your plus, each month. And then your negatives or your minuses are all of your expenses that you pay out, whether that's rent or mortgage or food, etc. And then I always like to make sure I budget for some playtime. So make sure to include those things in the budget.
Yeah.
I really like what was it Aaron said about shopping. You like shopping, don't guilt trip yourself and say, oh, I'm going to feel bad every time you shop because I enjoy it. But, budget that into your monthly expenses, a little bit of playtime, a little bit of fun.
Okay. Okay, so that's Maria's view of what a budget is. Anybody else have a different one?
I just say assigning a job to every dollar.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes what I hear is, well, if we have enough money to pay our bills, we're staying within our budget. It's kind of true. Kind of true, isn't it? So, so what you want to do is make sure that you understand what each other means when they say budget. You want to know what that means. So, the other thing we get often is spenders and savers. There's a spender, someone who loves to spend money. God gave us money to bless us, so we could enjoy it. And someone who says save. They want to save everything. They always want to have more, plenty in the bank. And they marry each other most often. So it's another one of those opposites attracts things. But if that's you, or any version of that opposites is you, then remember what we talked about last week about moving toward one another, moving to where you're saying, okay, so like Maria and Aaron just said, we need to budget spending. We need to budget excess spending, not for a fixed expense, and be able to figure that out. So, so that if you think that it's just that you can pay your bills, then maybe you want to talk about how you would like, if you would like to have more of a plan. We've always recommended that folks have a 5-year plan. And some people, some of you might be in school still, and that, you just don't even know what that looks like. Some of you may have lost a job, or anyway, we can't always be that financially savvy or that financially set. But to think about where you want to be and have a goal for that, that's a really helpful thing to do. And so each of you is going to come at this really differently. one of the things I wanted to say is that I have talked to people, I've talked to couples who do have separate checking accounts and they make it work. This is really what Ron was talking about in the, what did he called it, traditional or old school, new school? That's what it was, old school, new school. So doing that, finding out how you can work together, but have completely open books. That's what I'm going to have you listen to LJ and Navika talk about. So LJ and Navika are a coach couple. They coach premarital and married couples for us. And they also have their own ministry. I think it's about 11 years now, called Marriage Matters Today. And they love talking with people. They have a podcast and they love talking with folks and coaching. So you'll notice they have matching t-shirts on and they're promoting their business. But I'm going to just play a little clip of when they were with us last time. So let me see if I can do that. We're going to listen to it, and then I'm going to have you guys pick up, jot something down if you have a question or if you want to comment on something we can talk about. All right, now, as I'm talking, this is the first time I've ever shared a video. So bear with me, you guys. Let's see. 33. Oh, got to go back a little. All right, I'm going to hit play.
Kelly, Kelly, you're sharing the wrong screen.
Oh, thank you, Brooke.
So
Thank you.
stop share.
Yep.
And then when you click share screen, make sure that you click the video screen.
Yeah.
Try it again.
Okay, hold on just a sec. Get back to the beginning. Okay.
Click share screen and then click the video.
I'm
a pro at this from Online Alpha.
Yes. Okay, so screen 2. All right, let's see if this.
But before you, Kelly, did you click the tiny little checkbox at the bottom left? Optimize video sound?
No, is that on Zoom or on?
No, it's on
the
Zoom.
video. Okay.
Try hitting play and see if it works.
Okay.
Yeah, the sound's not working. The sound's not working. Try it one more time. Go stop share. Okay, this is the time. So click share screen. Then make sure you click the right screen, and then before you do anything else, in the bottom left, you see those 2 little check boxes.
Oh, share sound.
Click both of those.
Okay.
And now you can do it.
It's not offering me optimize for video clip. It's faded.
Interesting.
Hey, Kelly, I just made you the host again. Maybe that'll change it.
Okay. Thanks everyone for. Okay, I'm gonna close this and try one more time. Okay. No, it's still not there, but let's try it with share sound. Let's see. Try again. Can you guys see the video?
Yep, we can see it.
You can?
We can.
Good. Okay. Let's try again.
Call me in, she'll show them to me now. At first, we tried to start off doing them together. But my wife, when she has something in her head and she knows how she wants it, it doesn't matter what input I get. Her stuff is going down on the paper, and that's how it is. And it's fine because it's good. She knows what she's doing. She knows about it. It's going to get taken care of. So I place that in her hands. And so we asked this question because, it could be who's better at the yard work, who's better at, cleaning, because you can use these tactics and use comparative advantage. You know, comparative advantage is what we call it. So, you know, with laundry, I know she doesn't like laundry. I don't mind doing laundry. I do the laundry in the house. You know, we come together and we do some of the other things. She does most of the cooking. You know, she's really good at cooking. She can just throw everything together. It doesn't matter what it is. She'll make a meal out of it and it will taste great. But she can't bake. So I do the baking. No, she can't bake. She can't bake. Because she don't like following directions. She don't like reading directions. She'll put a bike together, the handlebars will be where the bicycle rim is supposed to be. It'll be all messed up.
Well, I mean, okay. Yeah, he's right. We do for Marriage Matters today, we kind of coined this term comparative advantage, where you take whatever the task is in front of you in your relationship and see who does it better. I mean, it's not meant to be a competition, but it's meant to help you guys to flow and work in a more effective and efficient way. So when it comes to finances, who's better at finances? Okay, you got it, but
make sure you share.
Make sure you guys get together once a month and go over their finances. Okay, this is what we got. Whatever it is, the person that is the one that's doing the finances must make sure that their spouse is involved in what's going on. That helps to create trust and transparency, yes. And it helps to make sure that you both are on the same page when it comes to the purchasing and accountability. And, you know, you want to make sure that, you know, that the household, everything is being taken care of. And both of you guys will know that. So that's what we talk about when we say a comparative advantage. So, you know, some of the things that we just want you guys to take away is that just work together on the budget, you know, have that conversation about how you're going to merge your finances. I know there's so many different ways that this can happen. We're old school. We got one savings account, you know, one checking account. We don't have, well, okay, I take that back. I did get a checking account to save for a big purchase that I wanted. But for the most part, everything is together. And you both know that it's together. And
that would be our goal for you guys, is to make sure that however you do it, you communicate that with one another. And then you come together and you make that work, whether it's the hybrid, like Ron was talking about, or you just bring everything together, you know, and make it happen. But you want to make sure that it fits your marriage. You know what I mean? It's not, one thing is not going to work for everybody.
It may not be one size fits all type of a thing. Yeah. So you guys, that's why it's really important to communicate and see what works best for your relationship. We're just giving you some tips and tools. And of course, the Word of God. I mean, when you sit down and have this conversation, just refer back to what the Word of God says. That's always going to be your anchor. That's always going to be the thing that's going to help you to get clarification and set you on the right path on the goals that you're setting for yourself, your marriage.
And me and my wife, we do a lot of marriage counseling, and I'll share this with you guys, coaching. I'm sorry, with people often. And one of the things that we found out is with couples that don't have some sort of either hybrid or money together, that's where their problems lie, is within the finances, because one person makes more than the other. They don't bring their money together, but you pay half, she pays half. The other person that doesn't make as much, in the end, when it's time to go out for entertainment or to hang out with each other, they don't have any money. So then the one that makes the most is always complaining, well, I always got to pay for dinner. I always got to pay for us to go, you know, on a vacation or something like that, because they're not living as one as God has brought us to be. He said he makes two become one. And so me and my wife, we're one. And that's how we live that. But you guys have to figure that out for yourself too.
All right, so LJ and Navika, they have a lot of really good things to share, but I thought that comparative advantage was really helpful for us. And again, it's something for you to think about. Most couples I know, one person does the finances. But if there's something in your relationship where one person thinks, you know, really traditional couples, it would have been the man did it. And so maybe you're together and you have that, and you're going to have to talk through that. Who is it that's going to do that? So anything come up for you guys when you were listening to them describe theirs? What about the last part about one person having to pay more often than the other, or more than the other? Remy? Oh, I can't hear you, Remy. Hmm.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right. Yes, I thought that the last point he made, I was definitely thinking about it because I never thought about it when, if, one person is making more than the other. And also, I think Ron talked about it earlier when he said it doesn't have to be equal, right? It's when he said about equitable, right? So it has to be like a percentage of your income. So what you bring in. So I was trying to connect what he said at the end with what Ron said in that video regarding it's a percentage of your income, because if you're not making, you don't have the same income, then it would not be fair for one person, because if you go out and then the other person doesn't have enough anymore, because it can be like, equal amount that you bring in. So
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that either when I first heard them talk about that, but it could be difficult. It could make it difficult. Okay. What else? Oops, sorry, guys. Okay. All right, one thing that, is there anybody else that wanted to share? Got a little flustered there with my technical difficulties. No? Ask about? Well, I had a scenario to tell you that another couple that has done finances with us used to share. And when they shared the scenario, then they would have the class talk about it, like at a table or between one another. And so, so this actually happened in their marriage, and I think in the first couple of years. So they both were working, they both were making money. They had their finances combined, and the woman decided that she wanted a different car. I don't know if it was a new or used, or I don't know that detail, but a new car. And so she went to her husband, and she told him that, and he didn't like the idea, but he said, well, get me the information and then we'll talk again. Let me know about the car that you're thinking about, the car that you want. And so she was a finance person. She went and did all the checking, and she did a lot of extensive research on it and found out everything she needed to know. She got it together. She brought it to him. He said, I don't know. I don't really want to talk about it right now. And so in her mind, she thought, well, I did what you asked and I'm going to go do it. And so she went and bought a car without telling him. Next thing she did was she called him from the dealership and told him what she had done. And that she did it because she did what he asked, and he didn't do what he said he was going to do. So she went ahead and did it anyway. Okay, so the question is, what do you think? What might they have done different? Like what might have been a good thing to do? Who should have done something different? I'm going to let you guys talk to each other about this.
Hey, Kelly, what was his part again that he was supposed to do that he didn't do?
He wasn't willing to talk to her. He wouldn't make time to talk to her about getting another car.
Ah.
So she brought her all of the stuff. She did what he asked, and then he said, no, I don't want to talk about it right now. Can't get to it. So yeah. Okay. Let's just take a couple of minutes and see what you say. It's pretty good story. Okay, everybody. So what are you guys coming up with? Has anybody thought of anything? Or, I mean, there's some obvious answers, but.
Yeah, I kind of thought that, both were a little bit out of line. I mean, I think that there's a lot of different factors going on, like how much they have in the bank, whether it was her money that she was planning on spending or if it was joint. They had beforehand talked about like any purchase over $1,000, we're going to talk about beforehand, like stuff like that. So there's a lot of different factors there. But obviously, her spouse should have been open to talking about it, especially since he said so. And also he didn't appreciate the fact that she put in all that work. And, that was a sign that she was serious about it. But then also she probably shouldn't have just like flown off the handle a little bit and just went and bought a $20,000 car at the same time. If she was, really serious about it, she should have gone to him and be like, hey, no, like, I'm serious. Let's talk, don't get past that part, So I guess like instead of fighting for the car, fight more for like communication first and then fight for the car. But at the same time, like if it was her money, like she kind of has a right to spend it too. But is that the right thing to do? Like you have the right, but should you? So it's kind of the bigger picture there. Yes, you're entitled to spend your money essentially, but then it goes back to have you talked about that and everything. So it's kind of a lot going on, but big picture, I think both were kind of out of line.
Great job, Cody and Caitlin. Thanks. Yeah, that covered a lot of it. So, the first thing that came up there in that was that you have you agreed on how much you will spend without talking to one another? I mean, I remember times in the early years when it was $10 was, like that, going out to lunch, doing things like that we had to talk about. But then Cody said $1,000. Most folks I know, it's like 50, 50 or 100 if you're going to spend more than that to talk about it. And again, can you see how that can bring peace can keep peace in your relationship? So Cody, what I love that you said the most was that, you have a right to, but is it the best thing to do? And remember, we all have different things around money. And so to put someone else, to put our marriage or our relationship or our spouse before what we want to do with our money is love. We want to love one another. This is my beloved. If I'm doing something to make him feel unsafe or insecure, then we really need to get that worked out between us and vice versa. And so, on the one hand, one person might have kind of a lot of anxiety about spending money and will never agree to spend money. That's maybe just as much out of balance. But knowing what is really important to your partner it really needs to be high on our list.
I have a question.
Yes, Turi.
So just like in the scenario, kind of, if your mate or if your mate doesn't like to communicate certain things or keeps putting it off and putting it off, can you hear me?
Yes, you're going pretty slow, but it's a little warbled. Can you hear me? Oh.
No. Can you hear me?
Maria, you're breaking up and you're at least your video's frozen right now.
So if If your mate likes to okay, never mind.
Well, I think I have your question. Let me, maybe you can let me know in the chat if I have it right. So if one person does not want to share, if a spouse doesn't want to share or communicate about money, what do you do? Maybe you could put in the chat real quick, Taria. This might be a good one for us to talk about. I think this is, we kind of have been talking about that. Let's see, 3 new messages. So the idea that one person just really wants to do their own way and doesn't want to communicate or doesn't want to talk. I've known couples who have gotten married and didn't know the other person's debt. And not even school debt, but credit card debt. One couple we coached, my husband and I coached many years ago when he was planning on paying off a credit card. And so then they got married and they moved. And so he didn't do a forwarding address, and he forgot to pay the credit card off before they got married. So first thing they got when they got back from their honeymoon was or maybe a few weeks in, was a credit card bill that had all these penalties, and he was actually in school at the time and she was working. And so they called us and they came over and we sat down, and she said with venom, she said, "Now I have to pay with it with my money." And it was just this, you could just see he felt so bad, and he did do something wrong, but the resentment had started, and this was like in the first month they were married. And so let's see, Taria, I don't see your typing. Maybe
I think she.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Taria and Stephen, your audio is very garbled. It's not working. I'm so sorry.
Hey, Kelly, I liked it, and I think Taria was, just my kind of observation, having kind of failed at one marriage before, but is I think communication's kind of like really key. Mm-hmm. But like to me, the husband was probably saying something. He didn't say yes. So whether he meant to say no or didn't want to reply to answer, may say something, but just kind of my thought around it is on a car after the communication.
You're talking about the message she put in chat earlier?
Yeah. But like on a car, if you two can't agree, I just don't think any of the stuff or material stuff is worth putting the marriage kind of through that. You may win the battle and someone forces it on a car, but that just, I just think that puts a lot of risk.
Okay. That kind of goes back to us saying, what is there that two people who love God and love one another can't come to agreement on? That needs to be the forefront of our mind. And if we can't do it on our own, which is fine, like you might not be able to come to an agreement on your own, to ask for counsel, to ask for wise counsel. It's really, it really is good to say, we are not getting anywhere here. And I think can we talk to Joe and Karen, or someone at the church, or maybe even a financial advisor, depending on that. So thank you, Rob. Oh, no, it wasn't Rob, it was Cecil. Thank you for sharing. And Toria, I really apologize. We haven't been able to do this, but I think I'm going to move on. If you can get that to show up in the chat, we'll take a look at it. Okay.
I think Cecil brings up a good point, and this is just like a good learning point would be for anybody in a relationship. Like, what do you do when one person is being passive aggressive in an area and they want to say no, and they don't believe that a person should make this purchase or should go on this trip or pursue whatever it is that this person wants to step out and do, and the person who is passive aggressive, their answer is really no, but they never come out and say that. They say stuff like, oh, well, I want you to get me all the details on such and such and bring me an Excel sheet and break it all down and blah, blah, blah. Probably thinking, oh, they're never going to do that. You know what I'm saying? And then the person actually does that and brings all the details and the information to them. And they're still like, well, I don't want to talk, and they're passive. So it's like, what do you do? I mean, because like if somebody, and I'm not saying that this is me, but I'm just saying, say if we were watching a movie, if the person is unwilling to have the conversation and they're being passive aggressive and they're blocking you from doing something that, you have a right to do, you make really good money or whatever it is, I think a lot of people would say, well, you had every right to go out and buy that car and et cetera, et cetera. They were obviously, so what do you do in a relationship when someone is passive aggressive and is blocking you, but not willing to actually come to the table and work with you and make some sort of compromise?
Sure. So again, this, for me, Maria, that takes us right back to what we talked about in the beginning, is what's behind that anxiety or what's behind that behavior. And if you're in a relationship where you're experiencing that, I would say that you need to talk to someone else, that someone else needs to be brought in. And that, by the way, I would say that's probably down the road in a marriage or in a relationship. In other words, in the beginning, folks are going to talk more about it. It might be after lots of disagreement and miscommunication, hurt feelings, insecurity. And so if there is someone with that personality, this is why we do these classes. So a couple can hear someone else say, this is what a marriage looks like. This is what it looks like when two people make a covenant with one another and say, I will take care of you. We will be together in this. And if we can't, we will ask for help. Now, all sorts of personalities come into this. And I know folks that will never go and talk to anyone else. They're their own authority, and that's it. That's an extreme. Most of you will talk about it, and you may have to take, like I'm thinking, like you disagree about something and you say, well, let's pray about it. That's, sometimes that's just code word, right? For let me cool down, let's take some time, but let's take a week and pray about it, think about it, and come back. And sometimes that's all it takes for someone to reset and say, I can tell this is really important to you. I'm going to defer to you on this one. Or, can we look at our budget again in 2 months and see if it feels better to do it then? But the idea of having a right to do something is one of those things that we have to remember when we think about God, what he's done for us. So like my rights are something that I surrender to God. In being a Christian, I surrender my rights, my right to happiness, my right to have what I want. And so if I can go to him and say, I don't know what to do on this, I'm really unclear, or or please help my husband, I have those things that I can do where I'm not demanding what I deserve, what I can do. So there's two things in there, just like Cody said earlier, both things are going on. You have a right to, and yet you don't want to exercise that right because you want peace in your marriage. And on the other hand, the person that's being passive aggressive is also not allowing for there to be peace in the marriage by refusing to talk about it. So when you ask the question, what do you do? You know, there is no answer. I mean, it is to take it to God and then hopefully get counsel from someone else. If, you know, like, if you know someone, let's not even include anybody here tonight. You know, if you know someone that has this going on in their marriage, this is a marriage problem. It's not a finances problem. Or it might even be an individual's issues. And so, you know, I would always recommend individual counseling. If one person, you know, has an issue and the other person won't come to the table, then I would recommend, let's say it was you and Cecil. Cecil is passive aggressive and, you know, stonewalling you, for you to talk to a counselor to see what you can do to bring peace to the relationship. It's not always black and white. So, you know, I pray that for all of you, that you would all have that heart to come together and to see things from the other's point of view and move toward one another. Anything else? It's just been good conversation. Let's see, I'm going to check the chat real quick. We've got, if your spouse sweeps things under the rug instead of communicating, that can make the other person do things on their own. So there you go. Maria just mentioned that. We all need to come to the table. And if one person doesn't want to, then it's going to be rough sailing. It really is going to be hard. I really appreciate everybody sharing and asking questions like that.
Kelly, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Hi, Marquita.
Hi. We talked about like the passive aggressiveness and things being swept under the rug. Could you speak to those situations where, you know, say, for example, there's a shared account and one day the money isn't in there and there is no conversation, or purchases happen and then the person just finds out like a year later. I think that's been my experience in the past. And so it's not the disclosure. I just want to do it anyway, but it's more of a indiscretion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that would be a betrayal. That's what I would call that. That's a betrayal of our friendship. That's a betrayal of our covenant. You know, one of the things we say is that confessing is better than being found out. So if I have an indiscretion and I spend money and don't tell my husband, and then we're not be able to pay the bills, or the savings is, you know, there's gone, or whatever that is, he's going to need to learn to trust me again, no matter what. But it's going to be a lot easier if I confess that than it is if he finds out and I never told him. So when I say it's a betrayal, this applies to anything in marriage where you have something that you have done that you know is harmful to your spouse or your marriage or your family. Learning to trust is learning to be able to, earning back your trustworthiness is really difficult. And both people have to work at this. So the person that was offended has to learn to trust again. The person that offended has to become trustworthy. And so you both have something to do, but it's possible to do it when there is confession and repentance. And remember, week 4, forgiveness. So it can happen. But when there's no repentance from that kind of behavior, that kind of betrayal, that's when it was really difficult for a marriage to survive or recover. I've seen it happen. It does happen. It really can happen, but it does make it really difficult. And so, does that help, Marquita?
It does. Thank you. And just for the record, it's not my current relationship. It was my previous marriage. I thought maybe.
Yeah, see, it's so great. I think a lot of these have been the case with that. And again, that's where something that happened to us in the past, we bring it into this relationship where it has not happened and where the person is not like that other person, hopefully. I mean, well, they haven't done it yet anyway. And so we bring that anxiety into this new relationship. And it's not, what I say is it's not fair. Of course, nothing in life is fair, but your new spouse or your new fiance was not meant to carry what happened to you in a previous relationship. They are going to be made to carry that if you aren't able to reconcile your anxiety and your fear around something that happened before. And again, this can be from family of origin. Again, I was raised by a single mom. We never had enough money. So I'm pretty, I wouldn't say I'm anxious about money, but I really keep close tabs on it, make sure that we're okay. And it is one of the things that can cause me anxiety more than anything else, but I've done my work there. My husband is not the cause of that, right? Unless he might become that, but he's not. So anyway, it's really helpful for you to think about what you're bringing in from previous relationships or your family of origin, and not ask the other person to carry it outside of saying, I am sorry that I'm so anxious about this. Will you pray for me? Like, can we talk about it again? I'm sorry that it's taking this long, but I'm really working on this. Or another thing that would be really helpful for that, especially like if it was a previous relationship, to get some counseling and prayer for yourself, so that you can say, I've really brought this to God. I'm really moving in the direction of being healed from it. That's really good. So I know that because I know all the statistics of it, I have information on everyone. I know we've got some couples, it's younger, first time married, it's good to hear these stories, but you're in a different place. And then we've got other folks who have been married before, have kids from previous relationships. You're going to have different scenarios to deal with. But I feel like we've done a really good job of covering a lot of them. I just want to repeat again the idea of being able to see each other's credit scores and debt, not to hide, there should be nothing hidden when you come into your marriage. And again, it's much better to confess or to share than it is to be found out later. So I'll give just one more opportunity if anyone wants to ask a question, and then maybe move on. Okay. Let's I want to just look at the participants guide, if you all will. And this is just part of the homework, is this worksheet on, sorry, I went too far. No. Finding the page. Oh my, I got way from it. All right, so page 103. I'm not going to go through the whole worksheet. I just want to bring it to your attention. And I want you to see this agreement thing. So we did this already, but you have this in your book. So you can work through, I stay within our budget plan. And this is agreement or improvement needed. So in other words, if you both agree that you do and each other do, then you're in agreement. If one of you says, I stay within my budget plan, and the other person says, no, you don't. No, I don't think you do. What you have, when that happens, what you have is a different way of thinking about the budget. You have different perspectives, and somehow you want to get on the same page. So this is one part of your homework. And I think the most important part of that is on page 106, where you ask each other these questions. And so I'm going to share my screen just real quick so I can point out, we'll be looking at the same thing. Okay, does everyone see here? It says couples worksheet. Can you see that? Okay, let me make sure I got the right thing. So I want to highlight, these are the questions if you agree. So if both people say, let's say both my husband and I say that I stay within the budget plan, that's agreement. And then what you can ask is, what about my spending habits and the way that I stay within our budget plan do you appreciate? So this is wanting to tell each other what we're doing well. You know, really, you've done such a great job of juggling the budget while we've been going through this. I'm so grateful for the way you make sure the bills get paid, or, you know, there's just any number of things it can look like, but what do you appreciate it? Maybe that you stay really calm when we talk about finances. So and then how does this enhance our relationship? So you get to say that to one another. If one of you says the other person doesn't stay within a budget plan, again, you got to think about, okay, what does this mean to them? And so you want to say what you want to ask them. If I say to my husband, you don't stay within our budget plan, he can ask me, what changes do you feel that I need to make in order to stay within our budget plan? Okay, again, he's not agreeing that he doesn't. He's not saying I'm right and that, oh, whatever you say, honey. He's saying, I want to know what Kelly is thinking about. Why is she feeling this way? So what do you think I should do? And then I get to share with him something practical, something that he will know. And that we have down here again, measurable, reasonable, and repeatable. Because what I don't want to say is, well, you just need to be more careful, or you just need to stop spending money. You know, so that's just something so vague, and we don't know. I can say something different, like we need to talk before we make purchases over $50. You see how that's measurable? We'll know if he did it or not. We'll know it's reasonable, because it is reasonable to ask, just to talk about it before we make the decision. And it's repeatable. We can do it over and over again. So this is the invitation to grow with one another. It may take several tries, but you continue to ask these questions. So again, this is the improvement part if you think that you need improvement. But even if you don't, these are really, you could say, what changes would you like to see me make when it comes to my spending? And you just kind of share with one another what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And then you get to talk about it. So the idea is not to have that defensiveness, of this person's going to try and control my money. This person's going to try and tell me what to do. They don't know what I know. You let those things go to the side and you say, so how can I make it better for you? It doesn't mean necessarily that you are going to agree with them and do it, but you at least get to hear what's in their heart. So, when we're doing, I'm saying this about finances, but it's a part of everything in life. It's a part of laundry and, household chores and decisions for the future, parenting, your free time together. So, I don't know if this was said or not, but I know couples who've gotten married and had no idea, they didn't live together beforehand. They had no idea how much time the other person spent playing video games or on social media. And then they get married and it's just like this, what? Because when they were together, they were out, they were doing things, they were making plans, they were, whatever. And then when they're home, their free time, they just really hadn't talked about it. Anyway, so you see, that's where you say, I can't make the other person be everything I want them to be, but I can ask for improvement. It's okay for you to say, can we talk about this? Okay. Well, we are coming to the end. I want to just bring your attention to one more homework assignment. And this would be on, it comes right after that. I should just write them down instead of scrolling through this. Let's see. Okay. It's jumping on me. It's a budget, something you can use. There's a whole bunch of forms. Here we go, page 99. Thanks, everybody. And I'm going to share again, just to be really clear. So this is simple, and it's very old, as a matter of fact. This is like 20 years old, you guys. These are just a springboard for you to start if you have not tried to combine your finances. So this puts job 1 and job 2. It considers child support, other spousal support, investments, whatever, total income and creditors and additional monthly expenses. It just gives you that springboard to say, are we thinking of everything? Have we talked about this? Are we willing to talk about this? There's discretionary income. There's planning ahead, things, just thinking about what you might be needing in the future. Some folks, get a new car every whatever many years, and some people drive their car until it breaks down. And, you got to say, what is it we're going to do? So I think we've gotten that down, but I just wanted to let you know that that's in there if you feel that it would be helpful. As I said, there's so many things online now that are really great. So we have just a few more minutes, and what I want to ask you to do is to do something for me. Before we end, you were sent in an email from Mindy this week, probably just yesterday, Friday, I think, an email with a survey. And so I'd like everyone to start the survey. And by the way, I would love it if you would do it individually. I don't think we see it as a couple, but in any case, we really would love your feedback. So can someone, let's see, just raise their hand if they say, yes, we got it. You've got it? Okay, so open that up, click on that link, and at least start it. It's really simple, but I don't want to keep us online until it's completed, but I would like you to start it and finish it for us. So moving forward, love to have feedback. I'm going to give you just a few minutes now to start that. All righty, everybody. So we have come to the end of the 6 weeks of classes. And I just want to say again, you've been a really good class. And I so appreciate everyone's willingness to share and to participate. And so if you have any questions about the classes, about getting married at the vineyard, about our coaching program, I'm going to stay on after the class. So after I end this for the recording, I will stay on after, and you can ask me your questions, or you can email me at Vineyard Columbus. It's Kelly, KELLI.Messick @vineyardcolumbus.org. And we can, at any time, we can talk about the coaching or getting married at the vineyard, having someone officiate your wedding from the vineyard. We have lots of pastors on staff to help with that. So how about I pray for us before we go, and then we'll be done. Okay. All right, Lord. Thank you for this time set aside for all of these couples, Lord. Lord, I would mention each by name, but for time, I'm just going to say, you know each couple's hearts, Lord. You know what's on their hearts, what's on their minds. And I pray, Lord, that you would lead them. You would guide them. You would protect them. Lord, I think of you, the oil of your Holy Spirit being poured out between them, Lord. When rough stones that were put in the temple in the Bible, when they were rubbed back and forth together so that they would fit, they would pour oil between them so that they didn't crack. And I pray, Lord, that you would be that oil in these couples' relationships, in their engagements, in their marriage, so that they could really work through things in an honoring and godly way. Just pray all the joy that you can, that you have would be full in their lives, Lord. We thank you for all these resources and for this time together. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right, everybody. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
God bless you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, we
Thank
could
you,
all
Kelly.
unmute and say goodbye. That would be great, unless you want to stay on.
Thank you.
This is great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
Bye.